Hey guys, welcome back to another video in my series on red flags to watch out for. Again, I'm citing a lot of information from the Narcissist Support channel for this video. When the narcissistic partner is caught doing something wrong or saying the wrong thing, they will obviously try to defend their actions. A few very important points to remember is that narcissists lack accountability and they're also huge hypocrites. So they might say something that they think is perfectly fine, but it's completely unacceptable. But they lack guilt, they lack shame, they lack remorse, and they lack embarrassment. So when they've done something wrong or said something that you don't like, they will have all kinds of reasons as to why you're wrong. And if they're really effective and manipulative, you might actually find yourself apologizing to them. So when your narcissist does or says something wrong, at first you're very hurt, very angry. Maybe you'll talk to your friends and they'll say, "Oh my God, how would you let him say that? Are you really okay with that? That's terrible, he's using you." So you decide to talk to your partner about their behavior, and they'll find a way to completely justify it. They will find every way to reason their way out of the conversation with you. So now you're thinking, okay, I guess they're kind of right. And then you end up defending their behavior. And people will say, "What are you doing? This is unhealthy." And you'll say, "No, I'm fine. You don't understand. It's not as bad as it seems." And there are reasons why their justifications make sense to us. First, you're experiencing cognitive dissonance. Their logic doesn't make any sense, but then again, it kind of does. And your mind is feeling very stressed out because you have two conflicting thoughts on the same thing. You're thinking, "I really disagree, but maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's okay." And you want your thoughts to line up so you don't feel so stressed out. So you begin to convince yourself that what they did or said actually did make sense, and it's really fine, it's perfectly acceptable. Cognitive dissonance also means that you need your thoughts and your actions to line up. You might say to yourself, "I would never date a cheater." But if you suspect your narcissist is cheating, you might go into denial, because if your actions matched your thoughts, you would break up with them. So you change your thought process, and you say, "They're not cheating. They're just probably busy, and they just can't make time for me right now." Another reason is called the Stockholm Syndrome. You become so bonded with your abusive partner because trauma does bond people, even if they're the ones doing all the negative things to you. And I think every person who's been in an abusive relationship for a long period of time would say the same thing. We've been through so much together. But in reality, the abuser put you through it. He hasn't been through anything. It's not the same as experiencing a traumatic experience together. And just like the narcissist is addicted to narcissistic supply, we're addicted to something too. We're addicted to our partners. I think a lot of people who become addicted to things are trying to fill some type of a void. And codependents are generally the product of emotionally unavailable parents, so there is a void there. Ideally, a person would reach adulthood with those voids filled, and then this healthy, well-adjusted person can go on to find a healthy adult relationship. But in someone who's reached adulthood with all these empty feelings, they're going to look to fill the void some other way. And these are completely subconscious thoughts that are driving our behavior. I didn't realize that my parents were emotionally unavailable. I didn't know that I had empty voids. So I practically was holding on to Robert, begging for him to love me, because I didn't know that I was lacking love growing up. And I guess I was sort of making up for lost time. And without knowing, I gravitated towards someone who was just as emotionally unavailable as my parents. These voids are called empty buckets. And I give full credit to the Narcissist Support channel because I haven't heard this term anywhere else. Narcissists and codependents have very similar empty buckets, but we go about filling them in opposite ways. The narcissist will fill them by taking everything, and the codependent will fill them by giving. There is a related concept known as the human magnet syndrome. It was coined by Ross Rosenberg, and if you haven't read his book, I highly recommend it. It made everything seem so much clearer to me. I will eventually do a video on this topic. Robert would do and say a lot of awful things. I don't need to repeat them. But if you listen to each one of my videos, I always give a few examples of what he would do, and all the behavior that I talked about, he would always find some way to defend it. And I was thrown into those feelings of cognitive dissonance where I kind of agreed with him, but I kind of still thought he was wrong. But I was so desperate for some type of attention that I convinced myself it was okay. One thing in particular that bothered me a lot, and I don't think I spoke about this yet, but I'll call it the Christmas dinner situation. He was going to Christmas dinner with his mom's side of the family, They sort of knew of me, but we hadn't met yet. I was very close with his dad's side of the family. I always went to their family functions. But he wasn't really close with his mom's side of the family, so he told me that he was going to go with his cousin. I wasn't upset, because I knew he wanted to get to know them before he invited me. So at the very last minute, his cousin said he had to work and wouldn't be able to make it to Christmas dinner. Robert asked me if I wanted to go. And I was with him when he got the phone call. I heard his cousin say, "Hey, I can't drive out there, I have to work." And Robert said, "Well, how am I supposed to get out there now?" And he turned to me and in the sweetest and obviously very fake tone of voice said, "Would you like to come to Christmas dinner with me?" Now, I know he didn't ask me because he actually wanted me there. He asked me at the very last minute because he needed someone to drive. And I was very upset. I said, "You're only asking me because your ride can't make it." And he said, "No, I figured without my cousin there, there'd be an extra place for you. It'll be more comfortable for you to meet my family. And it'll be nice, we can go for a walk, it'll be nice and cozy." And he just said all these things, and I kind of half agreed with him, and half I didn't. I knew he asked me because he had no way of getting there, but I let him convince me otherwise. He would also say things to me like, "If I go a while without seeing you, it'll make me more happy to see you." Now, if you're in a relationship and you really like the person, you'll always be happy to see them. But he would say this to me, and part of me kind of agreed, because I know absence does make the heart grow fonder, but I also know that absence can mean that you're a shady asshole. But as with most situations, I had two conflicting thoughts, and I wanted my actions to match my thoughts. Dating a cheater is something I said I would never do. So him being a cheater meant I would have to break up with him, and I didn't want to leave. So I went with the thought that kept me in the relationship. He's not cheating. He really just wants to give himself time to miss me. Narcissists will plant seeds of bullshit in our head, and we water those seeds, so our heads are completely full of their bullshit. You'll probably notice this type of dynamic in your relationship, and if you weren't aware of what was happening before or why it was happening, I hope you have a better understanding of what was going on. And I'd love to hear about your experiences, so please leave me a comment below and tell me what kind of shitty reasons that your narcissist gave you. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in a few days.